Okay, so in this chapter, we're looking at topographic maps. And a topographic map is a 2D representation of a three-dimensional space. So if we can imagine a mountain range or hilltop, how would that be represented on a sheet of paper? We would use what's called contour lines, which we see here as these brown lines that have a number associated with it. And these contour lines will give us a sense of elevation on our 2D sheet of paper. And topographic maps are pretty useful in an agricultural standpoint. We can use these to look for nice flat grazing pasture or even boundary lines. In an environmental standpoint, we can look at regions of high elevation versus low elevation to predict where we would have fluid movement in terms of water contaminants or even just water movement in general. And in an engineering standpoint, we can use a topographic map to look for terrain that is safe for building certain buildings or building structures, where we wouldn't want to build on top of a very steep hill or steep cliff without doing some proper land grading before building anything. But perhaps the most fun reason why we care about topographic maps or why to learn a topographic map is for purposes of exploring the natural world. So for myself, I enjoy hiking, and this allows us to navigate through the wilderness using a map when the GPS may or may not be that useful or reliant. So a topographic map can help an avid hiker avoid cliff faces or gorges and find a nice safe pathway to where they want to go. So some important features to look at on a topographic map is the scale, the north arrow, and the different types of coordinate systems. In our lab, for this course, we will be looking at township and range and latitude and longitude. So in our map, at the bottom of the map, we will typically find our north direction. So here we have the geographic north and the magnetic north. So geographic north with GN and magnetic north as MN. We have our contour interval of 20 feet, and this just means that the contour lines that we see in the map above, the vertical distance between each contour line is 20 feet unless otherwise noted. We have our scale system, and this gives us a sense of horizontal measurement. If we were to take a horizontal measurement in map, we can compare it with the bar scale, and you can see that this bar, that measurement, is about half a mile. We can also use the ratio scale of 1 to 24,000, which simply means that one single unit that is measured on map view of the paper map is represented by, or is a representation of 24,000 units in real life. So if we take a single inch that's measured on the map, that means in real life that distance is 24,000 inches. So to go into the different coordinate systems, we'll start with the township and range. So township and range is pretty similar to a Cartesian coordinate system, and this is further broken down into sections and quadrants. So if we look at a north, south, east, west directional line, we can see that the east-west line is pretty similar to a baseline, and we can call the north-south line as a principal meridian, as we've seen shown here in red. The horizontal column, the horizontal rows along the north-south will be called our township, and then the vertical columns along the east-west line or the baseline is called our range. And where they intersect is our township and range that we're interested in. So this is called a congressional township, and the congressional township is broken up into 36 sections that are equally spaced and sized. Each congressional township is 6 miles by 6 miles, which means that each individual section is 1 mile by 1 mile, and it's a perfect square. So the notation of writing this is from the smallest item going into the larger item. So section 36, as highlighted, is going to be smaller than the township and range. So section 36 comes first, and then we have the township and the range. So the township, we have township to north, because we are in the second row in the north direction of the township. And we have range to east because we are in the second column going in the east direction for range. To further break down our individual section, we can break this down into individual quadrants. So if we were to take each section and split it up into 4 sections, we now have 4 quadrants. So we are now looking at the northeast quarter of section 21 here. And then if we further break that down into another quadrant, we are now looking at the southwest quarter of that larger quarter. So the notation here would be the southwest quarter. So that would be the small c. So the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter. So this is the larger quarter of section 21. Of section 21, township 23 south, range 23 west. So the full notation for this is from smallest to largest, and we have the name as southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of section 21, township 23 south, range 23 west. Longitude and latitude are commonly used now a lot in cell phones and GPS systems in cars. So the latitude are north-south concentric circles on the globe, and they start at the equator and they get smaller as we approach the globe or approach the poles. So these are the horizontal lines on the map, and longitude lines run vertically along the globe. So these are the vertical lines in map view, and they go from east to west from the prime meridian. So an example that we have here is 158 degrees, 36 minutes, 23 seconds. So the minutes and seconds are based off of the quotation marks, single or double. So the single quotation represents minutes and the double quotation represents seconds. And it's easy to convert these into degrees since the minutes and seconds are exactly the same as time. So in 60 seconds, we would have a full minute, and in 60 minutes, we will have a full degree. So if we were to look on a globe once again, we can see that we have these horizontal running lines that will form circles, and they do get smaller as we approach the pole. So these horizontal lines that are drawn here, these are our latitudes, and then the vertical lines that we have here are the longitude lines. In contour lines, we typically would have a thick contour line and the thin contour line. So the thick contour line is the principal contour line, and the thin would be the secondary contour line. The thick or principal contour line would have a number associated with it, and that would give us the elevation point of the contour line. And then the thin or secondary contour lines will just be a thinner line without a number associated with it. But based on the contour interval, or if you have two principal contour lines, we should be able to determine the elevation of these secondary contour lines. Some rules to follow when drawing contour lines and contour intervals. Contour lines will never cross. They cannot cross. If they cross, that means that in real life, that specific point where they cross, that means we have a point with two elevation points, which cannot physically exist. Contour lines can, however, become closer to one another when representing a very steep region, such as a cliff or a very steep slope. When given a point with a set elevation, and we're told to draw contour lines, we do not want to connect points together. We want to draw around them and interpolate the contour elevation between different points. So an example here that we have are a series of points where we have a set elevation. And if we were to draw contour lines, the end result should look pretty similar to this. So we notice that none of the contour lines ever cross, and generally we are drawing around the contour lines, or around the contour points. So the exception would be at 400 and 410. And this would be because we are using a contour interval of 10. So there are some special rules to follow when we're dealing with streams or bodies of water. Do know that streams will cut through topography. So in a cross-sectional view, a stream does create kind of a V shape. And locally, generally, where we have water will tend to pool or flow in the lowest elevation point. And we cannot draw contour lines that run straight through a stream, which means it cannot run perpendicular at a 90-degree angle. There needs to be a point for that contour line, and that point should be pointing uphill. So once we've completed drawing contour lines, then we can proceed to drawing a topographic profile. So the above image, we have a contour map that is drawn with the contour interval of 10 feet. And we see a line AB that's drawn across this contour map. So to get a topographic profile or a cross-section of this, we are able to project these contour intervals onto set elevation points that are equally spaced. And then once we connect where those intersecting points are, we are able to get our topographic profile.